yesterday's lesson marked the halfway point through our unit, and I thought it might not be a bad idea if we just I wanted to lump everything together and kind of give you a big overview of how all that ties together, because I know some of you that I don't see until Wednesday have asked me a few questions, and I wanted to really kind of get us all on the same page before we move forward. So the first thing I had you guys do was just solve a proportion. You have to be able to solve a proportion to set up a ratio proportion to solve for side in right triangle or in triangle. So long story short, you need to be able to solve an equation that is set up like this. So the way these work out, you've got a variable in one of the positions and you need to solve for that variable. So your job is pretty simply to cross multiply. You're going to multiply on the diagonals and come up with this pretty basic algebraic equation that says something along those lines right there. Okay, so some of them are a little more harder. I don't want to say harder, but they're a little more complicated than others. But the idea is cross multiply and you'll get a nice little single line equation that you've been doing since forever. So when I divide out my 7 here, you will get decimals on these sometimes. Don't worry about it. I got 5.1. Okay, round all your decimals to the nearest tenth. Let's not worry about any sort of funkiness past that. So round them to the nearest tenth. I'm going to cross multiply these guys. 5a equals 36. So then when I divide that out, it's kind of weird that they both wound up being 36s. Just a coincidence. And when I divide out my 5, I got a to be 7.2. Okay, that's it. Pretty straightforward. So what you're going to have to be able to do is take those skills and kind of expand it a little bit. So I'm going to multiply here. Because this numerator has a bigger expression in it, it's not just a single variable, you need to treat that as if it has parentheses around it, so you're going to distribute the 7. So when you do that, you're going to wind up with 7x minus 7 and then 9 on the right. So add your 7. It still gives you a pretty straightforward algebraic equation, something you've been solving since early high school or maybe even 8th grade, depending on what you took. So 16 divided by 7, I got 2.3 on that one. Okay. Again, the bigger expression, treat it like it has parentheses on it. So when you cross multiply, 9m minus 36 and 42 on the right from 7 times 6. Add 36. So I got 9m is 78. Then when you divide, is 8.7. Okay. I realize all of those came out to be decimals. That's not going to be the case once you start doing some of these, when they're linked to the triangles a little bit more. So that was 7.1, just solving a proportion. 7.2, I asked you to pick out the corresponding parts of the triangle. So you're going to be given 2 triangles and what's called a similarity statement. The similarity statement tells you, hey, this triangle here is similar to this triangle here. It's got the little squiggle between the 2 triangle names. That is actually a pretty powerful statement. This statement up here tells you what the corresponding parts are in the different triangles. What I mean by that, this side here, AK, right? AK, the first 2 letters in the second name, is going to be similar to the first 2 letters in the first name. So AK matches up with AB. Those guys are going to be partners. Now, ultimately, what you'll do with that information is you will use that to set up a ratio. So if we're looking for AK, X would match up with AB, which is 20. And I can go all the way around the figure and do this. That's where I'm going to get my other proportion or my other ratio at. I know that AL is a part of a ratio. AL, right here, the first and third letter is going to match up with the first and third letter here, AC. Okay, you've got to use the name up there. If you're not using the name, you're not going to get these set up right. Okay, so what we did with that is we took those we took those pieces and set up ratios, set them equal to create a proportion, and then you cross multiply and solve. So I am going to do all of these the same way. Whatever I'm looking for, that's where I start building my proportion. My proportion is going to look like this. One fraction equals another fraction. I have 4 pieces of information. I need to fill in those 4 spots. If you don't put the right information in the right spot, you're not going to get the right products when you cross multiply. So I always start building mine with what I'm looking for with the X. That is CD. CD right here. I'm going to be looking to match that up with LM. So that's going to be X over 35. CD on top, LM on bottom. And I got that from that similarity statement. You've got to use those similarity statements. You can't trust the pictures to not be distorted or somehow not matching up the way they should be. So then my other ratio over here, since I grabbed X from the big triangle, my measurement on top over here also has to be from the big triangle, so 91. And then I'm going to match that up with the only piece left, 65. Now, if I gave you all three sides of both triangles, it's a little bit harder because you have more ratios to play around with. I'm not interested in doing that. I want to set it up and you guys have a basic. You've got 4 pieces, put them in the right spot. You're solving more of a problem that way. Okay, cross multiply here. 65x and whatever 35 times 91 is. 3,185, 3185. Then you divide out your 65. I got 49 for that missing side. And that's it. You're done. Okay? Nothing else to do with it. However, if you have a bigger expression listed as one of your side measurements, you're going to have to do one more thing. Once you get your X, plug it back in to find the missing side. You'll know they're obviously different from the other ones. You've got a bigger expression here instead of just a question mark or an X. You've got more to do. So again, I start building my proportion there. I've got a ratio equals a ratio. So I start with 2x minus 10. So that is NM. NM is going to match up with RS, so 84. And then I started with the smaller triangle for my numerator here, which means I'm going to put 14 on top over here, 98 on bottom. Cross multiply. It's 196x minus 980 equals 1176. Add your 980. When I divide it, 11. Now, you're not done. Okay, you found the value for x. That is not the length of that side. Previously, you could stop because that was the length of the side since it was just a question mark. Here you've got an actual value that gets plugged back into an expression. So I need to know what 2 times 11 minus 10 is. That's going to be 12. Okay, so 2 answers on this one. X is 11. The length of the side is 12. You'll notice when you do the homework that it's like, it'll say, here's the same problem twice in a row, solve for X, and then what's the value for the side. Anyway, if you're struggling with these, shoot me an email. Send emails. You need to be in contact with your teachers if you're struggling with something. You can't just sit there like a bump on a log and hope it goes away. It's not going to.